Have you noticed something strange happening at airport gates lately? Especially now that summer travel is picking up? People pulling shoes out of their bags at the last second, passengers kneeling on the floor, repacking right before boarding, and others standing quietly at the gate, credit card in hand, paying a fee they didn't even know existed. And it's not random. On my recent flights, I kept seeing the same situations over and over again. So I started paying closer attention, spoke to a few frequent travelers, had quick conversations with airport staff, and went back to read the actual rules again, properly this time. And that's when I realized something important. The rules haven't really changed, but the way they're being enforced this summer definitely has. In the next 15 minutes, you're going to learn the exact rules that are being applied more strictly right now, the small details most people overlook, and the reasons why even experienced travelers are suddenly getting stopped. And it's worth staying till the end, because the last one isn't obvious. But once you see it, it changes how you move through the airport completely. Rule 10. What worked before doesn't protect you now. I've used this bag for years. I heard someone say that, and it didn't matter at all. That's the biggest mindset shift happening right now. Travelers are relying on past experience, while the airport is operating on present enforcement. Those two don't match anymore. A bag that passed 10 times before can still fail today, simply because it's being evaluated more strictly. What's changed is how precisely airlines are treating size. It's not about whether your bag looks fine anymore. It's whether it behaves exactly within limits when fully packed. Wheels, handles, outer pockets, and even slight pressure from inside. All of that is part of the measurement now. And here's the subtle part. A bag can technically meet size requirements when empty, but once filled, it expands just enough to cross the line. That's why people are getting surprised. They're not wrong. They're just outdated. If you really want to stay safe, stop trusting how your bag looks. Test how it fits when packed exactly the way you travel. Close it fully, stand it upright, and assume that what barely fits at home will fail at the airport. That small adjustment alone removes one of the most common and frustrating surprises people are facing right now. What most people don't realize is, even if your bag passes perfectly, the next problem has nothing to do with size at all, and it hits before boarding even starts. Rule 9. Your ticket can override your bag completely. A perfectly sized bag, still rejected. That's when you realize the bag isn't always the decision maker. Your ticket is. A lot of travelers still operate with the assumption that carry-on access is standard. But airlines have quietly split that experience into layers. Certain fares, especially basic or stripped-down options, don't include the same baggage privileges people are used to. The confusing part is how this is presented. The ticket price is always obvious. The limitations are usually tucked into details that most people don't fully review. So everything feels normal, until it suddenly isn't. You walk through security, reach the gate, and only then find out your carry-on doesn't belong in the overhead bin under that fare. The smarter way to approach this now is to treat your ticket like a bundle, not just a seat. Before you even think about packing, check what your fare actually allows. Look specifically for carry-on inclusion, not just luggage size, because once you reach the gate, that's not a discussion anymore. It's a charge. So now your bag might be fine, your ticket might not, and the next thing that gets people caught isn't written anywhere clearly. It's something agents notice instantly. Rule 8. Your bag gets flagged before it gets checked. I started noticing something strange. Certain bags were getting picked instantly. No measuring, no hesitation, just selected. That's when it became obvious. Enforcement doesn't start with measurement. It starts with perception. A slightly bulging suitcase, uneven edges, expansion zipper pushed out. These are visual signals. They tell the agent, this might not pass. And once your bag enters that category, it gets attention. Most people think they get caught because they're oversized. In reality, they get caught because they look like they might be. That's a completely different game. So instead of thinking only in numbers, start thinking in presentation. A clean, compact, structured bag blends in. A stretched, expanded, uneven bag stands out. And at the gate, standing out is exactly what you don't want. If you want a simple rule, pack like your bag will be judged from a distance before it's ever tested. That one shift changes how you pack completely. And once your bag gets that kind of attention, you're already in a situation where timing starts working against you. Rule 7. Delaying your decision is what makes it expensive. 2 passengers, same flight, same bag, completely different cost. That difference isn't about luck, it's about timing. Airlines have layered their pricing in a way that rewards early decisions and penalizes delayed ones. When you book your ticket, baggage fees are usually at their lowest. Wait until check-in, they increase. Leave it until the gate, and now you're paying the highest possible price. And here's the part most people don't realize. This isn't accidental. It's designed that way. People delay decisions thinking they're keeping options open. But in reality, they're just moving toward the most expensive version of that decision without realizing it. Once you understand this, your approach changes completely. Instead of thinking, "I'll decide later," you start locking things in early when they're cheaper and simpler. Treat baggage like part of your ticket, not an afterthought. Because the later you deal with it, the less control you have. That's when people realize it's not just about what you bring, it's about when you decide. And the next mistake proves that even smaller bags aren't safe either. Rule 6. Personal item is a physical test, not a category. It's just a backpack. That argument doesn't work anymore. Because airlines aren't judging what your bag is called. They're judging what it does. A personal item has one clear requirement. It must fit under the seat in front of you. Not loosely, not forcefully, naturally. The problem is how people pack them. A soft bag starts flexible, but once it's filled tightly, it becomes rigid. It stops compressing, and the moment it stops fitting under the seat, it stops being a personal item. That's when it gets reclassified. And once that happens, the fee follows. If you want to avoid this, stop packing your personal item like a backup carry-on. Pack it like something that needs to compress easily. Leave space for flexibility. Because the test isn't how much it holds, it's how well it adapts. And if this is helping you see things a little differently, you can subscribe. I break these down so you don't learn them the hard way at the airport. Here's where it gets frustrating. Because even when your bag gets stopped, a lot of people still believe the gate will fix it for them. Rule 5. The gate is where small mistakes become expensive. I used to think the gate was a backup plan. If something didn't work, they'd just check the bag and move on. That's not how it works anymore. There's a clear difference now between helping a passenger and correcting a passenger. And once you understand that difference, you start seeing why so many people feel caught off guard. When an airline offers voluntary gate check, that's assistance. When your bag doesn't meet the rule and gets flagged, that's correction. And corrections come with a cost. What makes this worse is timing. By the time you're at the gate, your options are gone. You're no longer choosing, you're reacting. And reacting at the airport is always more expensive than deciding in advance. The smarter move is shifting when you solve problems. If something feels even slightly uncertain, size, weight, eligibility, handle it before you leave for the airport. Because once you reach the gate, it's no longer a flexible situation. It's a final decision point, and those decisions are rarely in your favor. But once you stop relying on last-minute fixes, you start noticing something else. You've been packing the wrong way this whole time. Rule 4. You're trying to fit everything inside the bag. That's the problem. I saw someone struggling to close their suitcase while standing completely still, wearing light clothes, holding nothing extra. That's when it clicks. They're trying to solve a space problem only inside the bag. And that's exactly where most people go wrong. Airlines don't just regulate bags, they regulate categories. And there are still items that don't get treated the same way as your main luggage. Jackets, small accessories, even things you carry after security. They all exist outside the strict bag count mindset. But most travelers ignore this and focus only on compressing everything into one space. So the bag gets tighter, the shape gets distorted, and suddenly it becomes a problem. The interesting part is, experienced travelers don't necessarily pack less. They distribute smarter. They shift what they carry, what they wear, and what they keep accessible. If you step back and think about it, the airport isn't limiting what you bring. It's limiting how you organize it. And once you understand that, you stop forcing everything into the same container and start using flexibility that's already allowed. The simplest upgrade here is not buying a better bag. It's changing how you use the one you already have. Rule 3. Security feels random because it actually is to you. I kept my liquids inside my bag at one airport, walked straight through. Next airport, I was asked to take everything out again. Same country, same type of trip, completely different experience. That's when you realize the rule didn't change, the environment did. Security isn't operating on one single system everywhere. Some airports are using newer scanning technology that allows more flexibility. Others are still following older procedures that require manual separation of items. So from a traveler's perspective, it feels inconsistent. But from the system's perspective, it's just different stages of implementation. This is where people make a subtle mistake. They rely too heavily on their last experience. They assume what worked once will work again. And when it doesn't, it creates confusion and delay. The smarter approach is to prepare for the stricter version every time. That way, if the airport is more relaxed, you move faster. If it's stricter, you're already ready. It's a simple shift, but it removes one of the most frustrating parts of flying right now. So now it's not just rules, it's inconsistency. And that's exactly where rushed decisions start causing problems. Rule 2. The more rushed you are, the more you get caught. The pattern is easy to spot once you look for it. The people making mistakes at the airport are almost always in a hurry. They're adjusting their bags last minute, opening compartments in the boarding line, trying to reorganize things under pressure. And that's when everything starts slipping. Items get exposed, rules get missed, and small details turn into bigger problems. It's not about intelligence. It's about state of mind. Airports are designed to create pressure, time pressure, movement pressure, decision pressure. And when you combine that with uncertainty, people start reacting instead of thinking. That's when mistakes happen. What's interesting is that experienced travelers don't move faster. They move earlier and calmer. They've already made decisions before reaching the gate. They're not figuring things out in public. They're just executing what they already planned. If you watch closely, the difference is obvious. One group is solving problems at the gate. The other group solved them before arriving. That's the real advantage. And once you remove that pressure, one final realization changes how you see the entire airport experience. Rule 1. Nothing feels different until you get stopped. This is the part that ties everything together. From the outside, nothing looks new. Same airports, same signs, same announcements. That's why people walk in with confidence. They believe they already understand how things work. But the experience changes the moment something gets checked. That's when it hits you. The rules didn't change, but now they're actually being applied. That's the shift. For years, there was a layer of flexibility, visual judgment, informal allowances, small exceptions. Now that layer is shrinking. What's written is what's being followed more consistently than before. And that's why people feel surprised. They're not unaware. They're just operating on an older version of how the system behaved. Once you recognize that, everything becomes clearer. You stop relying on assumptions and start relying on precision. And that alone changes how you pack, how you book, and how you move through the airport. If this helped, subscribe. Because these are the kinds of details most people only learn after they've already paid for the mistake. And don't stop here, because once your bag leaves your hands, it's a completely different system. Do you know what thieves notice before they choose which checked bags to steal? Click here and watch this video now.